Welcome back to another episode of Shapes of Resilience. This evening, I am extremely honoured and grateful to be joined by Niraj Naik, the founder of Soma Breath, and someone that I have had the blessing of connecting with recently through Instagram. It was a very straight and simple, I love your energy. Would you do me the honour of a podcast? And the response was, yes, I would love to. So you don't get any simpler than that for a transaction. And I appreciate it. So first and foremost, thank you so much for your time tonight, brother.
Great to be here, bro. Yeah.
So what I like to do, we were just chatting then before we started, was because I'm more interested in the people that we meet each day, because we all wake up as an opportunity to be a new person. So for the benefit of the listeners that don't know anything about you and your journey, which is incredible, by the way, it's exactly what inspires me to follow my path with my journey and my background, which I'll share a little bit about that later on, where you'll see some of the similarities on the path that I've walked, the issues I've had with my health, and what leads me to be sat here today as someone that wants to connect with you and learn from you. So for the benefits of those that know nothing about you, then just tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, man. So, now I'm the founder of Soma Breath. So let's start with where I am right now. So I live in Ibiza, founder of a school of breath transformation that's music driven. That is now got over 4,000, I think, instructors around the world. It's crazy. And we've got peer-reviewed research at Cambridge University on our techniques. And I have a beautiful family. I live here, live in the dream, but it wasn't always like this. So the cliche story of where I actually came from is I used to be a really super depressed pharmacist, right? I hated my life in the UK, just didn't fit into that culture. And I actually had, in the end, an autoimmune disease as a result of just sheer depression. And the stress of doing a job that I had no enthusiasm for, right? So I think a lot of people in the UK, unfortunately, going through this right now. This kind of dissatisfaction, disillusionment, feeling like you're a robot stuck in like a cog in a wheel, and there's no hope of getting out of it. Like you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And when you feel that for a long time, and you start getting miserable, like you have a breakdown. So, especially when you ignore all of the symptoms of it and you drink a lot, party a lot to try and numb the pain, which I did for years, it takes its toll on you eventually. At one point, boom, it's going to hit you. And it often comes as a form of some kind of major burnout, nervous system dysregulation, or severe depression or an autoimmune disease. And for some people, it comes too late in their life. Like it comes in a time when it's really hard because of just the sheer fact of reality that, when you get to a certain age, it's harder, especially if you've got a mortgage, you've got family, you've got kids, all of this to pivot and do something different, right? So for me, it came very lucky and fortunate and blessed that I got an autoimmune disease when I was 33. So I was still I still feel like a kid at that point. And, I didn't have any responsibilities. So I was able to burn all bridges, right? And in fact, it wasn't like I had, it was a choice. I had to do it. So I chose a different path because the doctors had told me you've got no cure for this. It's ulcerative colitis. I was shitting blood like 40 times a day. And I was in a bad state. I'd lost a third of my body weight. I was going to have my colon removed or be on a drug, a guinea pig for a drug trial, right?
Mm.
So I just remember that moment of the last time I ever stepped foot in a clinic where she told me, this lady had been sticking a tube up my ass the year before, that Mr. Naik, this is it. You don't have any other options. Either do this or shut up and take the pills. Right. So I wasn't going to accept any of that. Right. Because I felt deep down, and this is where my actual other side of the story comes from. I felt deep down that there has to be another way. Right. That I wasn't going to just accept this. So thankfully, by grace of God, like my prayers got answered. They say God stands for gift of desperation. But a friend of our family, who's a yoga teacher called Swami Amrikananda, she's also a very revered, like Indian. She's not Indian actually; she's South African, but she is a Vedic scholar and she knows yoga to another level, right? So, like when she kind of came to the rescue, I had to kind of like put my disbelief to one side because like I'm a very rationally educated, scientific mind, right? And here's this yoga teacher telling me like, oh, you can heal yourself potentially from a disease that they've said is incurable. So, I wasn't sure about that, right? There's a lot of doubt. But she gave me this one thing, this one bit of motivation that changed everything. And that was like, you actually have a gift. Like, if you can turn this around, you'd have an amazing story. And the reason why you hate your job is because you don't feel like that method works to help people, but you do want to help people. So if you had a more fulfilling career, everything would be different, right? Something where you're actually helping people. So she was right. And that's what manifested. But like, you see what also unlocked in me through the breathing techniques she taught me and everything. That's the foundation of what I learned. Pranayama was my previous passion, which I'd kind of put to one side, which was as a musician. So believe it or not, I used to run one of the biggest raves in the UK for 3 years in Reading at the Matrix nightclub. I ran a 2,000 people rave, drum and bass, while I was at university doing this degree for pharmacy. And I was, you know, the funny joke is that I went from illegal drug dealer to legal drug dealer. So I was like living the life of like this kind of semi godfather of a rave business in the UK. And, you know, I was surrounded by double R bastards everywhere. You were like my kind of security. They took care of me like that. And I thought that was my life. I thought that's who I was going to be. My dad actually nicknamed me for some reason when I was a kid. And I think this is what sowed the seed into my brain. Was he used to call me Sonny. So I was like, why do you call me Sonny? Well, that's not my name. Nothing to do with like my name's Niraj. And he says because of this movie. And it was Godfather Part 2, right? Sonny Corleone. So he goes, it was his favorite movie. So he called me Sonny. I was like, wow, okay. My dad couldn't be any more different from the Godfather, but it was his pet name for me. So anyway, what happened was I got into a very crazy culture back then. I mean, I was playing epic raves. I was like on the way to a big break. And I thought this was it. This was my life. I never expected ever to be a pharmacist. But then I had everything taken away from me because there was a shooting that happened at the club. And that
Wow.
meant that it wasn't at my night, it was at a garage, UK garage. It attracts a really shitty crowd. My night was all love and light and happiness and spiritual experiences that 15-year-old kids off their head on MDMA used to have. It was a completely different experience to go into a UK garage night where it's all about thugs and gangsters, right? So I was like
Yeah.
I was running a spiritual experience. It was my first taste of it. I didn't even know I was doing it, but bringing groups of people together to celebrate it. I guarantee everyone's breathing together at the same time when they're
Yeah.
dancing. They're in unison, they're in harmony, they're in connection. And I was like, this is the best medicine in the planet. Like, this is what everyone should do this. Everyone should take MDMA and have a night out at a rave, right? To cool music and have their minds uplifted, right? So the irony of this whole thing was that so I lost everything because this shooting happened. The club was shut down. And I was in the middle of my finals. So I was supposed to go back to try and fix it, but it was too late. I had to make a choice, finals or event. I followed my mum's advice because you don't want to go against your mum, right? Your Indian mum, you don't, you do what they tell you. So anyway, so I finished my degree. It was too late to salvage the event. Now I'm stuck. I'm imprisoned in this 9 to 5 shitty job for years. I had no way out of it. I tried all these different ways to try and escape, to run other events. I lost loads of money, got into massive debt as a result of it, because it just isn't the same. When you're doing 8 hours a day, doing a shitty job versus being at university where you got all this free time, it's very difficult to get something going on the side. So I feel for people. If you're stuck in a job right now and you feel like there's not enough time in the day, because like, look, you clock in 9 to 6 or whatever, you travel for an hour. By the time you get home, you literally can say goodnight to your kids. That's it. Have dinner, watch a bit of EastEnders, what most people do, and then go to bed, right? So for a lot of people, they don't have enough time. It's true, because you've signed your soul to the devil. You basically, unfortunately, you signed a soul in the early years of your life to do a life as a slave for a corporation that you
Yeah.
don't really
It's almost
believe
like
in.
you're on a train and that train's left the station and it's not stopping until
Yeah. And
the
like I
next platform.
feel,
There's
yeah,
no exit.
yeah. So I really feel for people who are in that situation. But here's the thing, like, you don't have to work as hard anymore to break out of that system. I'll explain a little bit like what is possible. But anyway, I was forced to break out of the system. I had no choice because I got a disease. And it was like, now I've got time. Okay, maybe I've got no energy. I'm broken, but I've got enough energy to at least do a little bit. And then and what I focused on was what my Swami said, getting better, right? Healing myself. And the rest of the time to figure out, how can I work in something else other than a pharmacy? Like, what can I do to make money to pay, at least match my salary without having to step foot in a pharmacy again? Because that's what's killing me. And a friend of mine sent me a book called The 4 Hour Work Week. So I was like, holy shit, where has this been my whole life? Tim Ferriss, right? I read that back to back. I was like, front to back in like one go. And I was like, holy fuck, this is the best business model ever. Like, you can automate income on the internet and you can live anywhere. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to give up until I figure this out. So two things happened then. In the end, because I focused on getting better, I got better. I followed her advice. So it's just a process. You follow it, you get the result, right? That's what people have to start thinking about. What's the result I need? What's the process to get there? Who can I model? What success can we model? Model it. Usually it works. If it doesn't, you adjust and then it works, right? So I did the same for the 4 Hour Work Week, because the first thing I was like, because I started to make music and I started to make therapeutic music for me, right? Sometimes the best ideas come from what problems can you solve in yourself? And for me, sleep is hard. When you've got an autoimmune disease where you're shitting blood 40 times a day, sleep is a problem, right? Pain, stress, all of these are problems. So the techniques she taught me were like breathing, but with rhythm to it. So I was like, wait a minute, what if I had music to this, right? And I started to listen to meditation music, and most of it was shit. It was like pan pipes and native Amazonian kind of flute
Yeah.
music that was super cheesy. So I was like, I can't listen to this. So I'm gonna make my own versions. And I made, like, I don't know if you know much about dance or like dance music, but
Yeah.
the breakdowns of music, the really euphoric, uplifting moments of like a dance track, a house track, for example, where the beats cut
Absolutely.
out. I was like, wait a minute, I'm just gonna make that, extend it, and I'm just gonna make it beautiful, uplifting, emotional, like breakdowns. And that's meditation
Yeah.
music, right?
Yeah.
I started to compose my own journeys, and then I started to put the breath to it. And then I was like, wait, this really works. Let me put it on YouTube to see if anyone else likes it. And then one thing to led to another, like YouTube videos started to go viral a little bit. I was like, holy shit. Then I built an email list off the back of that. And then I had my first membership site. It was called Alchemy Sound Therapy years ago. Actually, before that was Alchemy Meditations. I found a kid to partner with online. He made really cool meditations. So I just put my music to it. And then I made my own. And then one thing led to another. Then once I healed myself fully 100%, I was like, right, I've got to teach other people this. Because what happened, this was the crazy thing, was a distant cousin of mine, his mum, messaged me and said, like, I heard you healed yourself of this disease. My son's got it. It's horrible. Like, he's really suffering. Is there anything you could do to help? So I was like, yes. As a pharmacist, I couldn't help, right? Couldn't help. But now I could help. So I wrote this whole email, sent it off, but no response. I was like, what? Like, doesn't he care? Like, doesn't she care? A couple of weeks go by. It turns out, then I got a response. They actually died of a drug, the side effects of the drug.
Yeah.
Not the one that I was going to take, but a very similar class of the drug. So I was like, that's it. I am doing whatever I can to make sure no one ever goes through this shit ever again. Like I literally goes through this shit, because nobody should die, right? Nobody should be put on these pills because they kill people, right? And there's other ways, right, to solve the problem. You just need the right information. So that's what I set out to do. That was my mission. I was like, how can I help people not suffer from autoimmune disease like I did? And, you know, one thing led to another, and I kept coming back to the breath, because there's so many techniques I learned, right? And I kept doing new techniques, but everything kept coming back to the breath. Like, the breath was the one that had the power to lift all the other techniques, right? And it had the direct, most instant impact. And then when I met Wim Hof and became like his right-hand man for a bit, I was like, there's another proof. Like, you can't, this is undeniable proof of the power of the breath. Like, Wim has a twin brother who doesn't do the techniques and doesn't have Wim's abilities. So I was like, this is genetic proof that this stuff works. Like, okay, for me, like, yes, I've helped a lot of people with breathing exercises, right? And autoimmune. But this is a superhuman. Like, literally, he can do shit that will blow your mind. The stuff that's written about in ancient texts, right? So I was like, this is a great combination. Me and him, like, you know, got the science, the medical side, got him with the crazy, you know, like, abilities and stuff. And I was like, this is the perfect marriage, met in heaven. And it worked for a while. And I'm a musician and he loves music. So we made all this music together. And then he started to really become super famous, and his whole family took over the whole thing, which was I think a bit of a shame. And so I was like, and also they wanted to put everything in a box, like one breathing technique, ice baths, and that's kind of it, right? And I was like, wait, there's so much more to what Wim does, like way more. But they wanted to keep it very simple. So I was like, I'm going to make the pharmacy of breathing techniques. And I partnered with so on my way, I met this amazing medical doctor, right? So this was actually during my research before I'd met Wim. I met a guy called Prakash Marsh, a medical doctor from Haridwar, near Rishikesh in India. And he has a medical clinic where he treats allopathic, like normal medicine, but also yogic medicine, right? Ayurveda, and especially pranayama. And what we did was, well, he invited me to go and study with him. So I went there, and this guy is like in his 70s, right? He can do all the stuff Wim does, but more intense, more crazy shit. He's this very humble medical doctor. And I was like, holy crap, this is just insane. And he opened up my whole eyes to these superhuman yogic potentials, right? But the key thing was he could explain explicitly the science of these yogic practices, of why do you do an asana? How should you really do an asana? How do you do this particular breathing technique? Why does it work? Like a medical protocol, right? So then I was like, okay, we got a partner, and you got to help me create the ultimate curriculum for Soma Breath, right? And that's what we did. So, you know, he really explained to me the power of intermittent hypoxia, the breath retentions, and you know, see, the problem with a lot of this breathwork stuff is people have lost the real understanding of mechanisms. right? Like even Wim, he teaches, he doesn't understand why the method works. The doctors studying him, they don't really understand. They keep focusing on the hyperventilation, but it's not. It's all about the breath holds. The breath
Yeah.
retention is where the magic is in the Wim Hof method, in Soma Breath, in pranayama. Okay, full stop. It's kumbhaka. It's not what when you breathe, it's actually when you don't breathe. That's what matters in pranayama. So this is what the doctor really helped me to understand. So that helped me then really perfect the protocols and make it even more something that can replicate and spread. Because some of the other things I noticed with the Hofs was with this particular pranayama technique that he does is that if you use your mouth to breathe, you can get very dizzy, you can get a little bit stressed out and intense, and it can even make you feel a bit sick. And if for somebody who's already got very like driven nervous system, they've already got a lot of fire in them, or they've got a kind of a burnt out nervous system, it can frazzle it. It can like electrocute them, right? Too much. So hyperventilation is prevented if you use your nose to do the rhythmic breathing and if you slow it down. So all of these little nuances were things that I wanted to bring to the table with Soma Breath, was the correct procedure from pranayama, the science to support how they work and why they work, and the music that makes it something you actually want to do. Because the thing with all these breath practices is that, like, people know they're good for them. Like, there's enough benefits of meditation. Everyone knows it's like the science is out there, right? But why do people not do it? Because they get bored of it. It gets boring or hard, right? So I wanted to make a method which sticks to you rather than you have to stick to it. And that's my problem as well. Like, I find it hard to stick to routines because they're boring. But make a really cool soundtrack, it changes everything. And that's one of the reasons I came to Ibiza, because my ambition was always to manifest living here one day, because that was kind of a dream, childhood dream. Like, you know, when I was like 15 years old, like dreamt of it when I first got into dance music and stuff. But the main thing was I wanted to get the DJs into this. Like, I wanted to get them to produce soundtracks with me for the app. Something that is very, very, very not easy to do, because DJs tend to be like the ones who think they're super cool and that anything spiritual isn't for them. And the problem with breathwork as well is that there's a lot of crystal feathers and wands and fairies, the new agey stuff that can actually put like more rational minded people off. But with Soma Breath, it's kind of it's a scientific practice. It's not wishy-washy science. I mean, it's not wishy-washy kind of new agey stuff. And it's got really cool beats. So I've now managed to attract some of the top DJs here to start collaborating with me to make soundtracks for the app. So we already have a couple already on the app, and we're scaling them out. That's my way to get this out to more people, is through really cool production, music, talent. So that's one of the reasons of being here. I went a long way around telling my story.
I love it. It's fascinating. I could just sit here and listen to it all day, because there's nothing that inspires me more than hearing firsthand from people that have made those huge transformations, but then also selflessly then use that energy to try and help everyone else to follow suit using the Soma Breath. And I've experienced firsthand at the Wellness Way Festival last year. I know you did a podcast with another guy called Adam that I met at the Wellness Festival, and he came on my podcast and I listened to him do his talk on detox. And that festival was very much for me a moment where I took different bits from different places. I didn't know what I was going to learn when I was there, but the three things that I took were EFT, the tapping, the Soma breath work, and the information that Adam delivered to me around how I could detox my liver to help with the 15 years I've suffered with irritable bowel syndrome. So I didn't know what to expect when I sat on the grass and Brooke, one of your fantastic instructors, delivered a breathwork session. And I was actually in a very, very bad place at the time. after, incredibly bad. That's what I went to the Wellness Way Festival on my own.
Oh.
And I didn't know why, I didn't know what I was going there for, but I knew I needed to do something different because I'd lived a life for 15 years of ignoring the signs that my body was living out of alignment. And the reason for that is I've been in the police for the last 20 years.
You been what?
A police officer.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And I've not been able to share anything around my occupation up until now. And the reason for that is because last week I resigned.
Wow.
Yeah,
Congrats.
I'm going. Yeah. I knew that was the thing that was the cause of all of my stress, all of my inflammation, all of my bowel issues, because I'm not someone really that was ever completely aligned to policing, because it takes a certain character to not get impacted by what you see. And for me, there was a certain point I remember as an incident that really traumatized me, involving a child that died. And from then on, I wasn't able to show the same level of empathy again because my body wouldn't let me. So what happened then was all those incidents I went to thereafter, I should have felt something and I didn't. So therefore my body was holding it somewhere. But the Wellness Way Festival and the Soma Breathwork session in particular did something to me.
Amazing.
And that's no
Wow.
joke. And
What a
then,
story.
and so if I fast forward from there to now, there's been, because I was one of those people that knew breathwork would be profound. And there's certain characters that helped me to realize that I needed to make some changes. And I'm very grateful to those people. But it's the breathwork sessions I've done between the Soma Breath and today. There might be 3 occasions, and on each occasion, something happened to me on each time, where the first time was maybe a bit of awareness, the second time was intuition, and the third time was clarity around what I now need to do. Because we can be aware of what we need to do, but then to have that moment of, I actually now have the strength to follow through with that. And when I got back from the Wellness Way Festival, the next thing I did was spent 23 grand that I don't have on a converted horse box sauna, which I now run as my business down by the sea. And I provide a
Amazing.
space for people, and we do contrast therapy. We do ice baths.
Beautiful.
I ran an event yesterday called the 5 Senses of the Soul in collaboration with
No, yep.
a yoga teacher, and we did cacao ceremony, we did yoga, we did breath work, we did sauna, ice bath, and I'm delivering a session to people and seeing them have those moments that I had. And it made me, I was smiling, seeing people cry and knowing that there's no attachment there. Let them have the moment. And the feedback today again is like life-changing for these people. And it makes me emotional thinking about it, because I've been inspired by people that have been inspired by you. And now there's people that are being inspired by me. And that's the ripple effect. So yeah, first and foremost, I just want to thank you for using your energy and intention to create something that's had such a huge impact on me. I'll never forget that session.
Wow. So where are you? Where is it based?
So I'm in South Devon on the south coast of England
Oh, okay, Devon. Yeah, it's a
in a
bit
town
far
called
from
Brixham.
where my parents live. I mean, I would have popped over. I'm coming to England in a couple of weeks. Might be a bit of a mission for now, but definitely bear me in
The
mind.
stars will align. The stars will align, and everything that's happened to
Yeah.
me on these podcasts is there's a reason why each person comes on the podcast at the time they do. And it's because if this podcast had been last month, then I probably wouldn't have been able to be as open and honest about that, which then prevents the connection from happening in the way that I know. Because all the way through, the connections I've made through the podcast they've been the reason why I do it, because I don't
Amazing.
make a single penny from it. It's just to get in the room with people. And I know that my dream one day is to stand on that Mind Valley stage. And I know that you're close to the guys at Mind Valley, and the work of Vishen and the way he speaks. I've listened to his podcast and been very, very inspired by him. And I've had Jimmy Narain on the podcast, and I've become fairly close with Maria Conceição, who does the fundraising for the children of
Maria?
Bangladesh. I know Maria.
Amazing. She's so cool.
And these people are just so selfless. And for me, that's given me that little thing to question myself. And when I'm having those moments where you maybe not doing things with the right intentions, it's to question yourself. And
That's so cool.
you just try and be a good person. And What do you think is the biggest thing that blocks people from listening to those inner voices that tell them to do better, but they ignore it?
Yeah, it's a great question. Like, so congratulations, man. I'm so impressed. And is the business going well? Is it time to take off?
Absolutely. It's absolutely incredible. And I've got
Yes.
other opportunities. So the moment I press the button on the resignation, and I believe me, a year ago when I was at that festival, I believed I had PTSD. I believed I had anxiety, depression, bowel issues. And because I told myself that, I then behaved in the way that that person acted. And in the last breathwork session I did, where I did the course with a guy called AJ Roberts, who I don't know, I think you might
Yeah.
know AJ. So
Yeah.
AJ did my course. So I did the basic level breathwork course, endorse it with AJ, because he was at the wellness festival as well and did the Lionsgate portal.
Mm,
So I've that's who I've taken the inspiration from and connected with. And I
nice.
was in a bad place, but it's fast forward now. I don't believe I have any of that. I believe I'm 80, 90% clear of any issues I had, because the feedback I now get from everyone is whatever you've done, your nervous system, your calmness is something that I want myself. Whatever you have done yourself is working. And then everything that I've wanted and manifested, because I now believe I'm worthy of it, these things are now happening. And the business is going well. I've lined up another opportunity. And for me, I know that the biggest opportunities that will come to me, I'm I'm unsighted on them at the moment. I know they're around the corner.
Yeah. So let me ask you like another. So based on that story, because based on what the question you asked me, like what holds people back from listening to their inner calling, right? Is that what you meant?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, why did you resist for so long? Do you think yourself?
Because of the stories I kept telling myself.
It's a story. A story. So this is one of the things that I did. I think had the biggest impact is when I discovered the book, The 4 Hour Work Week, right? And then a little bit of my Swami is education and insights. I then looked to the future. Okay, I read an amazing book called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind that opened things up. I didn't know anything about this shit before. I had to really educate myself in how the mind works and positive psychology and all of this. What I did was I projected myself into the future as though somebody who had already healed themselves, right? Was basically the book would tell the story in my mind of what success would look like in it could look like in a couple of years, maybe. I gave myself
Yeah.
kind of a loose timeline. And I just told myself the story over and over again in my head every day, different scenes of what my life could look like if I take the action, right? And do everything, follow these models of success. Because I'd listened, been to a Tony Robbins event in the past. If I put the action in. And the whole point of this was to brainwash myself into a new story. Because in the UK, here's the thing as well. The culture creates the stories in your head. So the UK, every culture has a code. They're all different codes. Americans are brought up in a different culture and different mindset and different stories to people brought up in the UK. In the UK, if you tell people about your dreams, big ambitions and goals, they're going to look at you funny. They're going to look at you with suspicion. They're going to go, damn you dick, mate. Fuck off. You know what I mean?
You can't do that.
Right? Like you can't talk to too many people about your ideas. Okay, especially your family. So you because what happens is like the code of England is a feudal country. So everyone is bows down to the king and queen. And there's an aristocracy that runs everything, right? So you're already a slave in the way you've been brought up to the king and the queen.
Mhm.
That's the way the culture's been brought up. So everyone tries to put each other on the same line. So if you rise too high, boom, you get smacked, right? So, there's a saying that says, like, if the Japanese saying that says, don't be the nail that stands out amongst the the pack or whatever, because you're going to be the first one to get hit,
I
right?
hear you. I hear
It's a conformity.
you.
So I had to brainwash myself so severely because our mindset in England has been brought up to be doubting success and to go towards what's safe and secure, which keeps us part of the status quo. So
Yeah.
that's already part of your hardware, right? And your operating system. It's like logic boards comes with software pre-installed. Because it happens so young, at such a young age, that it's like we've got pre-installed software growing up and it's hard to shift. So this was my method and it kind of happened just intuitively. I would just tell, and because it felt good to do it, I would just talk to myself and just keep saying stories of what success would look like. And I was telling stories about living in Ibiza, living on the beach, waking up, and then beautiful wife and family, and I'd be living the dream, and to the point where I visualized myself on the Mind Valley stages, right? Because I started to discover Mind Valley. So I was just like telling that story over and over again, like what I do in the morning, my breakfast. And then I started to tell the story like an autobiography, like it's already happened.
Mm.
And then I started to write it all down. And the crazy thing was, with all that brainwashing, that it actually happened. Like it's when you get there as well, right? When you actually get there, it's a very weird thing because not much changes. Okay, you're still the same guy. You're still the
Yeah.
same person, right? You might have. Yep.
Back
Carry
once
on.
again with, yeah, yet another technical faux pas, but because we're both here for the right intentions of using our experiences to help others, the technical issues do not matter. It's all about resilience, which includes breathing through those moments where the stress rises and the technical stuff gets in the way of what I'm very grateful for being a really amazing conversation. So yeah, thank you for your patience and perseverance. It is very much respected. And what we were talking about before the camera cut out was why men aren't turning up to these events, and how as a primal existence as a man, you gravitate to areas you think women are going to be there, and they're potentially looking in all the wrong places, still going out drinking. The heavy drinking culture in this country is still a thing,
Yeah.
but what you were talking about was actually the women have moved into this wellness space. And the event I ran yesterday down at the sauna, it was all women. And you were saying the same thing about women going to the Soma raves. And what is it you think that's not, the penny hasn't dropped? Why is that the penny hasn't dropped with men? That one, they're looking in the wrong places, and two, that work that they so badly need to do on themselves, they're just not doing it.
So I think there's a few different factors. So, like, okay, Wim Hof opened the door for men for sure, 100%. It was like a gateway drug for a lot of guys, right? And there's a lot of people. Like I remember when we first did a big event in London at the Oval Cricket Ground. We had a big Wim Hof event with ice baths, and this afterwards, like we all hung out, and Wim was there. And we had a few beers with everybody. It was incredible to see the types of people that were there. There were plumbers, bricklayers. There were people you never expect to do anything remotely spiritual were at this Wim Hof event, and they were all guys. It was like, I'd say like 90% of the people were guys. So it was like finally somebody came along that guys can look up to, right? Because guys need to feel macho. Like I usually say the things that are a bit like not PC. I come from the same hometown as Ricky Gervais. We have the same sense of humor. So sometimes I say things that,
He's my favorite comedian.
of course, I'll say things that people actually know deep down inside, but they're scared to say it, right? So men went and followed Wim because there's this guy, a normal dude who's a drinker, who's a normal, like kind of comes across as an average dude who does superhuman shit. So guys want to be superheroes. Their inner avatar as a kid, that is usually driven by being like a superhero, like Superman or Spider-Man or X-Men or
Action.
something. All the kids, and most kids who are boys, unless they're kind of a bit confused sexually, they are into supermen, like superheroes, right? So Wim was this real life superhero figure. He was an average dude, and he made it very simple. It's like easy. So definitely a lot more guys do this stuff, right? A lot more, but still not much, right? Compared to the women who do breath work, meditation, yoga, it's just way more. And I think women are more into nurture, self-care, and they're much more driven towards the spiritual side of things as well than men, because women are more connected to spirit. They are actually influenced by the planets way more than we are. Like the lunar calendar dictates the moods and hormones of women. So they are already very spiritually connected to nature compared to men. And the witches of the past, the priestesses, and all the ceremonies were done by women. In a lot of cultures, the women lead the ceremonies. So when breathwork is like, when it's pushed towards as being a spiritual experience, ceremonial experience, women instinctively are drawn towards it. It's part of the tradition, okay? And, they're more connected to God, right? So, but if you look at Osho as a great example, so he definitely had more of a mixed crowd, definitely a lot of women, but he had a bit more of a mixed audience. And what his secret was that I think the men got lured into the promise of free sex, right? So he had these big kind of resorts and women would flock to it. And then the men were like, well, that's full of women who are polyamorous. And, and so they think with their dicks a little bit. But then they end up in the process of it becoming more spiritually minded, right? And getting into the stuff. So I just think like there's a lot of primal stuff that drives men to be like superheroes. Like a lot of the yogis, the way they come across is more feminine, maybe too out of the cultural reach of a British dude who's a bricklayer down, and goes down the pub. Like, whereas Wim Hof is way more aligned with that avatar, right? But a yogi, doing like fancy yoga moves, and it's just too out there for a lot of people in the UK. So you needed somebody like a Wim Hof. Now that's why I'm trying to bridge the gap a little bit. I'm like, look, I'm pretty average dude, and one thing people do like is music, right? There's this funny Ali G interview with Donald Trump where he tries to trick him, and Donald Trump asks him, Ali G asked Donald Trump, "What's the most popular thing in the world?" And I think he was trying to trick him because Donald Trump would be like, well, me, right? But he didn't. He said, music. Music is the most popular thing in the world. And I actually believe that music is the language of the soul. And that's the way I'm trying to, like, men and women love music. And the kind of music I'm bringing in is like, resonates with both. And so the culture I'm creating with Soma Breath is a lot more kind of inclusive of both men and women.
Makes a
That's
lot of
why we're
sense.
skewed more 60-40, 70-30.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. Listening to you talk, it reminded me of being around 15, 16 on a Sunday evening waiting for Dave Pearce dance anthems to come on, and you'd have your two fingers waiting on the play and record, and you'd listen to the start of a song. Oh, I like this. And it was that trance era and euphoria and all these things. I remember how much I used to love listening to those tapes back that I'd made and the connection I felt to the songs back then. But I think through life, we forget our passions and we forget what gets us going. So what you're doing there, and again, I've tried a fair few of your sessions, and I actually attended your webinar last week where I could tell in your voice you had the start of a cold, and I know we had to
Yeah.
delay the podcast, and it sounded like you were struggling a little bit to kind of get the breath in. It didn't impact the delivery whatsoever, but I could resonate with those moments. Just the little moment where you played, I think it was your new track that you'd created, and you got everyone up and we were dancing, and you just instantly you feel something, which I know that's what you always looking for, that moment where you just hit something new inside a person, where and you can see it almost, oh, I've done something there. That's the moment that something new happens physiologically within the body, and I don't think you can't forget that or ignore it.
But what you can do is you could start hosting men's groups. So
Absolutely.
instead of calling it a ceremony, cacao ceremony, all that, you literally call it like a brotherhood gathering or something, right?
That's the one. Yeah.
Something like that. And then you
Yeah,
bring
because
the guys. And because,
well, we've got so many opportunities there. I've got the five senses of the soul, which will continue as a monthly event with this lovely yoga teacher. But I do feel like, again, hearing you speak, Glenn, I've got this opportunity as someone that is made some big changes. It's almost, I feel it's my duty now to bridge that gap, because I don't look like a typical yogi, but I think and feel in that exact way you're talking about. I feel very spiritual. Everything I'm doing at the moment is aligned with the intuition that I'm feeling and the synchronicities that I'm looking for and acting upon. And I know that I'm becoming this different person, but what I know I can do and will do is do everything I can to inspire other men to follow the path, because there aren't many that step into that. Even if you feel like it's the right move to do, it takes a lot of inner strength. I know, because I've done it, and it's been the hardest period of my life, but now I'm here. I'm so grateful that I've done it. Yeah, it's exciting.
right? Yeah, like the formula I've kind of boiled down to simplest format of success, right? Is like you get exactly what you put in, right? So but where you put your energy in, right, is gonna get different results based on the areas you put it in. So like if you get a proven model, this is because this is relating to the point you were making about like how people are really stuck. How do they get out of their situations?
Yeah,
You know, especially when you're hearing the signs and you're feeling it. Well, firstly, you got to try and do something about it before it's too late, because otherwise, your unconscious mind will put you in a situation where you have no choice, right? Either you'll get a disease, or you'll get something will kick you out of, you know, out of the whatever situation loop you're in,
yeah,
and unless you take some action, you can end up in a bad way. Like, so you don't want to wait for it's too late. But if you start feeling the signs, as trigger symptoms of like IBS and a bit of like digestive problems, they're the first signs there's something wrong, because our gut is like its own brain. It's part of your brain. It's a second intelligence. You have your heart, your gut, the head, you have your balls. Right, they're all part of our intelligence, our nervous system, autonomic nervous system. So, like when you're miserable and you don't listen to those symptoms of this truth you feel inside you, you will get heartburn or gas or constipation or something, right? You'll start feeling it. And then over time, it'll get worse and worse, and you get pain in your gut and so on and so forth. And then that's when it starts to get too late, when you just start taking loads of pills to suppress the pain and so on and so forth. So if you can feel what your body is trying to tell you a bit early on, that you need to change, you need to go against whatever the the, the doubt is in your mind. So, you know, maybe you're doing a job you don't want to do, you hate it and it's wearing you down. Well, now you got to think, okay, how do I get out of this? What can I do other than this, right? And then you have to look at like, okay, how much money do I need to make to replace my job? Okay, 3 grand a month. Okay, so that's like kind of an average salary. Again, you can live it somewhat decent life on that. You know, if you're a single guy. $3,000 a month. So how do you do that? Well, then you have to look at what are the models of success are there. And remember, guys are more rational, right? In their mindset, we're more logical. So we need logical proof in things working. So you just look at what's out there that I can trust that are going to get me $3,000 a month. What things can I do? Maybe it's another job. But if I get another job, it's going to be in alignment with my values. I can't just go and get another sake of it. I'm going to find one. But if I don't want to work for somebody and I'm tired of working for somebody else, I then have to be a business owner, right? So how do I create a business? What kind of business? So then you just go on the internet, and you start searching, or you go to ChatGPT, or you go to one of these AI tools, and you tell it, I need to earn £3,000 a month. These are my passions. This is what I like. How do I create a business around that? It will give you the ultimate plan. And then you say to it, right, I need to get out. I need to quit my job in 90 days. So give me a step-by-step plan to quit my job in 90 days, right? I need to be earning in 90 days enough money to quit, never go back to my job again, right? Well, how do I do it? Tell me the steps. And then hold me accountable every day with small tasks to reach that goal, right? And you can turn an AI like agent, right? There's loads of Claude you could use. I use one called Hermes. It's the revolution. It's literally the best thing ever made. Called
Yeah.
Hermes. It's a proper agent. It's agentic. It's like the ultimate personal assistant. But you can use ChatGPT. It's so good now. ChatGPT,
Yeah.
Claude, they're all good enough to do what I'm talking about right now. $20 a month. That's all it is. Get it to coach you, hold you accountable, because nobody else is going to do it. Unless you're going to pay for an expensive coach, no one else is going to hold you accountable in these early moments other than yourself. And then once you start to prove that this works, and you start to make a bit of cash, right? You then figure out, okay, how do I scale that? Again, you tell the ChatGPT now, okay, this is working. Let's do more, make more. And then what will happen is, as you start to get more money coming in, you'll start to network in different places. You'll start going to conferences, events. You'll start hanging out with different people. And then all that friend circle that brought you down, because this is the golden rule. You cannot tell anyone. Do not tell anyone your dreams, especially if you live in England. Do not, because they will fuck it up. They will tell you, no, you don't do that. It's bullshit. Can't do that. And they'll just put so many doubts in your mind that you won't do anything. And that's what happens for years for people. They just get caught up in this tribal culture of they have to fit into what their friends are doing. Because remember, your friends,
Reinforce your own doubt. Yeah.
yeah, they don't want you to change. They don't want you to be a different guy from the Joey who drinks a beer down the pub. No, they don't want you to leave that. They want you to stay there. So most of the time, they're unconsciously sabotaging you. You don't even know it. So you're going to be doing secret, and you'll start secretly going to conferences, events without telling your mates. You'll start hanging out with more women. You'll be like, oh my God, this is where all the cool women are. And then you'll meet some amazing woman, and you'll end up like getting married and shit and having an amazing business. And you'll have a whole new life. And then all your mates back there will be going, holy shit, he was right. Because that's what happened to me.
Yeah, I was going to say, my next question was going to be, have you basically just described your own life, really, and that you've made all those steps?
Yeah, the only difference is I didn't have ChatGPT then.
Yeah, fair play. So that was what I was going to ask you. So take ChatGPT out of the mix. How did you navigate that and find the answers that you needed to make those steps your reality?
So at first it was a lot of just experimenting. Like I knew that the 4-hour work week works. I went on YouTube and I checked out this 10 first. I was like, wait a minute, this is a huge world I've not heard about, right? This is like 2010, right? This whole digital economy, like digital nomads. So then I started to just go crazy on the internet, and then I started to go to workshops and events, and there's a lot of these like network marketing events, and then there's these internet marketing conferences, and build a laptop lifestyle business kind of conferences. So I used to just go to them, and then suddenly I'm like in a whole new world, new friends. Now I've got hope because I see people who are crushing it totally living the dream, and they're there, and you can meet them, and you can chat them, and you believe them. So it's like, because they got proof, you can see that they're driving that very nice car and they live down cool place, and like, so then you got enough proof in your head. You just have to prove this doubt in your mind, the logical left brain, that
Yeah.
something new can work. Because what happens is most guys, they're like, ah, it doesn't work. It's bullshit. He's fake. It's bollocks. That's what most people think, unfortunately. Because it's true. There's a lot of fake shit out there. But when you go to the right places, you meet the right people, and you invest. One thing that I would say that I did was and my best mate at the time gave me the money to do it. I owe him for that. He handed me some money we both bought this course to go a bit deeper from a guy called Stuart Ross. And that was life changing, because
Wow.
now I put a lot of money down. That holds you accountable in itself, because it's like, fuck, I've just spent 3 grand. But the other thing is that he wasn't full of shits, and everything he said worked in the end. So now it gave me more proof, because then I got to meet this person a bit more intimately
Yeah.
as well.
I'd
So
agree with that.
investing
And
in a coach, investing in
yeah,
somebody who's walked the path, whether it's virtually or in person, or that's how it works.
absolutely. And I look at the podcast, for example, and it was only when I paid to get a mentorship that I realized that when you pay attention because you're accountable, you've invested that money, and everything I've achieved has been through investing in financially and getting access to the right people with the right message, because else you can waste so much more time. And what's more valuable to you, your time or money? I'd argue time is the most valuable thing we have. But I wanted to ask you about, so you mentioned them with left brain. And something I feel when I'm doing the breath work is that I'm actually breathing my way through the energy centers and into my right brain. And I can, that's what I go to myself when I'm doing it on my own, because else I get distracted, and I focus on that. I breathe, I try and breathe my way up through the lower energy centers into the heart center, then into the brain. And I always try and go to the right brain, ignore the logic, ignore what my analytical brain's trying to tell me, and just go to this other place. But then I come back to neutral and try and make them work together then in coherence. So clearly, I know I've only just recently discovered the difference between left brain, right brain, and it's all that self education where you learn the right things at the right time for your own journey. So I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you your view on that, and in particular how Soma Breath, the power of breath work and Soma Breath in particular, in doing exactly that, breathing your way up through the energy centers and into your right brain, where we know the magic happens.
Yeah. So both sides of the brain are essential. Okay, the left and right, and they're like hemispheres, right? So imagine your brain is kind of split into two. You have the corpus callosum, that is the bridge between both sides, but you have your left brain, which is also the logical reasoning, the masculine brain, which is the side that also deals a lot more with language and spoken words and speaking, right? And then the right brain is the feminine brain. It's more creative, it's more nurturing, it's dreamy, it's irrational a bit more, like, and it's very creative, okay? And there's no side that is on and off, like they're both on at the same time, but one may be more dominant than the other, okay?
Yeah.
During the day, and it switches, right? Which actually means that you switch personalities throughout the day a few times a day, and you're 3 different people in one day. You're your left brain, which is the more masculine side. You're your right brain, which is the more feminine side. But you also both at the same time, which is when it's called shushumna. You have both nostrils active, and that's the
Wow.
whole brain awakened. That's the meditative part of the day, where you're actually God. So that's when you're fully connected to the divine and the soul. But most people don't know this is where we're getting into the mystic arts. It's called Swara Yoga. Your left nostril will be more active, and you can tell which nostril's more active. You can tell which person are you right now just by breathing in and out through a nostril. All right, you can tell. So just check. Like I might actually be both at the moment, but
I'm fully right.
You're right? So
Yeah.
that means your right nostril is more active.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that means your left brain is more dominant right now. Okay. That's also the left brain is more your sympathetic nervous system. Your right brain is more your parasympathetic. And there's always an ebb and flow between the two sides, okay, going on. And it changes every 90 minutes to 2 hours, where you'll go from left nostril to right nostril dominant, right nostril to left. But there's a period as they're turning that they both become active. And that's when you are God state, right? And your personality will be different. When your left brain's more active, you'll be more focused, more present. It's the type that's the moment where you is for getting stuff done, for building things, for creating actual action, doing stuff, right? And when your right brain's more active, it's more you're in the feminine side. You're more in contemplation. You're not as present because you're more introspective. You're more in a creative state. You're more imaginative, dreamy, right? When people are daydreaming, suddenly it's often their right brain is more active. Their left nostril is more active. But when your both nostrils are active, then you're more in the mystical state. Now, the right brain and the mystical state, the shushumna, are not for getting stuff done. It's like they're not for filing your taxes or crushing it on, projects you might be doing online or building something or coding or things like that. It's not, that's therefore nurture, creativity, processing, contemplation, spiritual connection, spark of divine inspiration. The left nostril is for getting stuff done, right?
Mm.
So during the day, you are, this is shifting, but you're usually, when the sun's out, more Surya dominant, fire, which is your left nostril. And when the moon comes out, the Soma, the moon, your right brain becomes more dominant during that time, right? So your left nostril is going to be more dominant. And that's called Soma, and that's the feminine brain. That's why at night you go more into nurture. In the evening when sun sets, you go into nurture mode, more receptive. A lot of artists, creative people love the evenings. They're more creative at nights. That's what they'll say. And that's also for sleep and rest, rejuvenation. And also remember it's connected to the moon. So when the moon has the strongest pull on you, you are going to have more parasympathetic dominance. And women get really affected by that. And men and women are equal with this. We both have a male and feminine side to us. Doesn't mean that one's on and one's not. You're both on at the same time. But just different dominance, okay? But when you know this, when you understand that there's these cycles, right? And there's all these biorhythms, then when you go into the science of Swara Yoga, it's fascinating because you can control your nostril dominance. So if you want to be more focused, you can turn on focus. If you want to be more creative, you can turn on creativity. There's techniques, Swara Yoga techniques. We have it on our app. You can check out the Swara Yoga course. We train our instructors in it, which gives you the ability to, like a remote control, switch on creativity on command, switch on sleep, switch on alertness, focus. Let's say when I did a TED talk, it was like important that I would, because with TED talks, you kind of have to remember a script and recite it.
Yeah.
Perfect. You have to be really alert. And so I wanted to be in that left nostril dominance. So I was a bit weird because I was one of the techniques is to sleep on your left side to activate the left side, right? So I was sleeping on the stage just before you get on, before my session, to turn on the right nostril, and everyone was like looking at me like weird, like, but it works. And then boom, crushed it. So there's all these different things you can learn when you go deeper into the mystic arts. There's so much to it. So that's what we train our instructors in.
Can I ask, do you get nervous when you're just about to do a TED talk? Are you comfortable with that, or do you naturally get nervous? And if so, do you then revert to your breath work as a way to calm those nerves down?
So I've really learned like how my mind works to a certain degree. So what I've realized is that And this is another thing about, I think, the attitude culture of way men are raised in the UK, is there's a lot of fear of failing, right? Or embarrassment. That's why public speaking is one of the biggest fears, right? That people face. And, like, it's almost in England, like they want you to fail. It's like they can't wait for you to fail, right? So they can make fun of you. You go, you twat, like that, right? So back in the day, I would get nervous about doing something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then I got into this whole Mind Valley culture and the American culture, and everyone celebrates success, right? And they're like, just do your best, do your best. And what I started to realize was that there's always this voice in your head. And with meditation, because those deep programmings that come from culture are all there, right? And they're louder in the people who have really been brought up with this fear of failure mindset of don't don't look like a dick in front of your mates kind of attitude, right? What I've realized is there's a way to distract yourself so that that voice stays quiet, right? It doesn't become too loud, because I can easily freak myself out. Anyone can do it. If you start to get a negative thought in your mind and you turn up the loudness of the voice and you make it brighter and you start to visualize all the things that could go wrong and you start to then play out the future that's already happened, and you turn up the dial on that and make it louder and louder and louder, and you start to feel the tension and the anxiety and the pain going up into your eyeballs, you will freak the shit. You'll freak yourself out. But the same mechanism that does that can be applied to psych yourself up, to be really confident and to be in your flow state, right? And to deliver every word exactly as you want it. Because it's the same brainwashing technique. Just how people brainwash themselves into panic attacks, use the same principles, you can brainwash yourself into becoming the most confident person in the world, right? It's all possible once you
I
know how
love
the
that.
mind works.
Yeah, absolutely love that. Yeah, I've learned so much from this conversation and taken everything I need from what you're sharing with us on this platform. And it's amazing to hear, actually, especially that all that information you gave us about the right and left brain. The beauty of a podcast is I haven't got any distractions here. Like, I have to listen intently. So every word you're saying, I'm absorbing it, and I'm hoping that the people that listen to it will do the same, because we all learn lessons at the right time.
Yep.
And I feel like there's too much distractions in the world where everything really goes in one ear and out the next. If at all, if you've even given anything the time of day now, I feel like there's too much distraction. And
But
it's
like, it's really cool you're a police officer, right? Because we are right now in the US. I've trained, mentored a inmate in a medium high security prison to become a Soma Breath instructor. He reached out to me and I was like, of course. And he now runs classes with our headsets in jail with
wow,
people who have got like 30,
wow,
sometimes life sentences. And he sends me updates all the time. And he's like, this is changing these people's lives. These guys who had no hope, they're suddenly finding themselves again, their truth, and they're getting excited about life again and the future.
it's amazing.
It's so cool.
Absolutely amazing. And
It's
I feel
so
the
cool.
same. As I feel like the statistics at the moment for people that serve in the emergency services and in the police in particular, and the ambulance service, because of the way it's gone in recent years, the suicide rate is so alarming. And I don't even believe the suicide rate is accurate. You're talking hundreds of police officers in the UK over the last 3 years are ending their
Police
lives. And
officers.
yes, and I know how that feels, because you feel like you're trapped in this system. You're trapped. You've got to wait till the end to get the pension. So therefore, I have no other choice but to toe the line, carry on doing a job that I know is no longer compatible with who I am. And that, yes, I might reach my pension, but then if I live a life where I'm fight or flight all day, every day in survival mode, and then I stop all of a sudden at the age of 55 or 60, well, guess what? My
Yep.
body's going to be so dependent on that cortisol that it's just going to go into shutdown. So when I started to learn this and know it and understand it and study it, I know myself, but my mission is to, very much like you were saying there, is to deliver that on the scale, the biggest scale I possibly can. And at some point, I know that that will involve me becoming a Soma instructor without a doubt, because it's having dabbled in breathwork and knowing the difference and the science behind it and your passion and your experience that you've created, that package of Soma, for me, it's unmatched. Which
Love
you know
it.
yourself. And yeah, so what is your vision with, to finish it off, what is your vision with Soma Breath?
Well, so we're actually currently doing another study at Cambridge, and this one's on PTSD.
That's the one.
And I think this is one of the really big problems people are facing, because look, we've had COVID was the first time the world had a big traumatic event that affected almost every country, right? Which people have not fully recovered from, right? And it created like quite a lot of PTSD, the process of it. And then you had the vaccine program, and that caused a lot of problems in people. Then people lost their jobs because and their friends, right? So society got messed up by that whole period, but it also brought a lot of other communities together, which has allowed actually things like what we're doing to spread out and become more accepted and more awareness. So what I want to do is like, I'm very practical. It's like, look, really, like, it's not realistic, I don't think, but why not? Everyone in the world breathes. It's the one thing we all have in common. It's what unites all of us, right? We all
It's the
have
qualification to
air
life.
lungs, being heart. We all breathe. And to breathe is to be spiritual. So everyone, spiritual means to breathe in Latin, espiritu, breath, life. So to breathe is to be spiritual. So to bring some spirituality back to the planet, what I want to do is make breathwork so fun, so cool, that it, and so scaled through our instructor network, that there is, that it's the new thing you do. Like, it's like, did you do your Soma breath today? Yeah. Did you do your Soma? Yeah. Oh, I forgot today. I should have, So it's like, I want to be able to touch as many people on the planet, if not everyone, for it to become a thing that is like brushing your teeth. Do you know what I mean? And then go into a breath rave is as popular as going to see Black Coffee high. If I can achieve that in the next 10 years, then I did my job. Because that will mean that it's now in the hospitals, it's in the prisons, it's in the educational system, it's everywhere. But for me, what I like to look at is what are celebratory moments that would be the vision of success for me. Like, that would give me, like, that would light me up. That would just like make me frigging charged up beyond belief, to if that happened, right? Because you need to have crazy ideas. You have to have big dreams. You have to have something that lights you up, that makes you do the crazy shit that nobody else is going to do. And like, to have an event in Ibiza that is as popular as like a Saturday night at high, that would be the dream. Like that would be a symbol of success. So when that happens, everything else, all of these other things have had to have happened for that to happen. You know what I mean? So I like to be specific about focusing on a vision that is so ridiculous that it lights you up.
I don't think there's anything ridiculous about that whatsoever. In fact, I actually know that it's possible, because all of the evidence I have of how powerful it actually is when we manifest as a collective, and we all look to save one starfish each on the beach to inspire others to come and pick up a starfish and throw it back in the water. We can do these, we can do it. And the power of people all shining their lights together is far outweighs anyone doing the opposite, in my opinion. You get 10 people in a room all in that heart center, that's going to outshine 1,000 people sat there being negative, slagging other people off. And I've got no time for it now. I know.
Yeah.
We can't waste time with this stuff, I don't think. And it's why wait till tomorrow to do something that you can do today to impact someone else's life. And when you were speaking then, I was visualizing myself, well, what can I do to contribute to your mission? And it's now that I'm going to be down at this sauna and I'm in collaboration with the restaurant owners and the people that run that site right down by the sea, we're talking about holding events and mini festivals. And well, why can't that incorporate some of your music and connect people with the breath? And for every 100 people you inspire, there might be one or two people in there that then go on their journey and become part of the movement. And that's how these things work. And I feel like it's just a matter of exposure. And I know you're on a mission to start, or not start, but continue sharing your message and going on bigger podcasts. And I really do think that is the way forward for your mission.
Do it, mate. And like maybe like our facilitator certification would be good for you because it's very low barrier to entry, and it gives you all the tracks which you can play during your sauna sessions and the gatherings with the headsets. And we could talk about that. I'll look you up because I want to kind of get more people doing that.
Yeah.
And
It's
it's the
exciting.
easiest way. It's like
Yeah.
very low cost way of getting into being an instructor.
That sounds absolutely amazing. And I know it's something that will happen. Everything that I've set myself as an intention has happened, as I'm sure is the way that you've navigated your way through all of that adversity to land where you are today, which is clearly you're a product of the product, which is something I feel like when you've walked that walk and then you talk the talk, it's so authentic and it's so inspiring. And you are someone that has definitely inspired me, not only today, but definitely feeling inspired after this conversation. So yeah, I can't thank you enough for your time. I know time is so valuable. So brother, thank you so much. And at some point in the future, when I've got a way of returning the favor, then it would be my honor to bend over backwards and offer my support in any way I can.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm sure it won't be the last time I see you. So
Yeah, that'd be
great
good.
stuff. We need to
Niraj, thank you
build
so much for your time.
that brotherhood in the UK and help the guys out.
100%.
Cool,
Yeah, I'm
bro.
with you. Mate,
Respect.